Inside this War Games edition of Bills, Alex Cullen, our old buddy, our old chum, joins me to craft the perfect game plan for defeating those wretched New York Jets in Week 2. It's a war game, so let's form the ranks to beat the Jets, says the Bills. Put flame to the detonator and play coordinator for the Bills. Alex, thank you for joining me on this edition of Bills. We're calling it a war room. No, we're not. This is our war room, but this is a war game. This is edition number 1 in the war game segment, which I suppose is the reason for my stumbling over even just the name of this series. These are war games. We're going to use our imagination, but also the expertise that we have as Monday morning quarterbacks to see if we can't predict how a particular game is going to go, what a game script is going to look like, what sort of personnel packages we're rolling out on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. And today, Alex Cullen, my old friend, my chum, is here with me on the Bills pod, because we're going to see what a matchup against the hated, but fortunately pretty terrible, I assume, New York Jets might look like. So before I give you the scenario, Alex, it's only customary that I ask my guest, how you doing? The schedule came out today. What do you think?
I'm good. I think that we don't have enough 1 o'clock games.
Oh, preach.
I miss them. I do. I hate staying up till midnight or sometimes 1. It's usually end up being like 2 o'clock because you win, because we win 13 out of 17 games. Mm-hmm. Then you're jacked up, and then you're like, oh, I want to watch the post game. And then you want to watch the highlights before you go to bed. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're in a YouTube loop. And then it's 2:30 in the morning. So, and I enjoy the night games. They're fun to get excited and get pumped up for, but I can deal without two.
No, they're not. I don't need them. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to get at least 1 thumbs up from you on an upcoming YouTube video and 1 thumbs up from our friend Randall, because I believe he feels the same way as you feel, and you feel the same way as I feel.
Yep.
I can't stomach the constant money grab with games being played at peculiar times. I know there's a game coming up this season that actually involves the Jets.
Yeah.
It's going to take place in London, to which the Denver Broncos are going to have to fly, and those Denver fans are going to be watching their game at 7:30 in the morning. I'm sure they can't be too pleased about that.
Yeah, and I that's the weird part for me is like, I know the NFL wants to make money. And
they already do.
They already make a ton of money. And I wonder, like, is it really worth the expansion? Like, you have people, I mean, the jet lag alone, 2 years ago when we played Jacksonville, I mean, the jet lag alone put us down. Milano got hurt, Daquan Jones got hurt. And then we were jet lagged. I mean, it sounds like an excuse. It's not. We weren't the same for like 5 weeks after that, because even though the jet lag's over, you're still kind of out of rhythm with your daily schedule. And if anybody's been to Europe, that's, or anywhere far away, that the time is really different. You're there for a week. And we weren't there for a week. We crammed everything in, all the time change, into a couple of days because some sports scientist said that was the right thing to do. And then it ended up being the wrong decision. And then when we got back, I felt like we were just exhausted. Like I think it was like probably 5's excessive, at least 3 games afterwards. In a season, we weren't as good, and we were out of rhythm the whole year anyway. It really got us off kilter a little bit, and just, I don't know. I just don't love them. And you think NFL players, I said this to somebody the other day, and I just don't, and it's nothing against anyone or any country, but like, do you want to live in a country you don't speak the language? Do you want to live in Germany or Mexico City or Brazil? You don't speak the language, and you don't know what to expect. Like, these players are like, they're from here, and then the travel, like, what are you going to do with a bunch of European teams? You're going to have a European division. What happens in the away games? Like, are teams just going to go there for their European slate? You know what I mean? So it's just a lot to it that I think is a lot too many moving parts, and it kind of muddies the game up, and it takes a level of consistency out of we know what to expect. It's like Bills were playing Jets in week 2 in Greece. I might be like, I don't know what to expect in this game. Have they been there for 2 weeks already? Like that's kind of how I feel about it. But either way, that's neither here nor there. That's not what this is about. So
When I recorded the aforementioned episode about my disfavor of all of this schedule expansion,
mhm.
I thought that my rant timed out to somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 minutes. Turns out it's about 25 minutes.
Yeah, I can keep going. Yeah,
You could keep
exactly.
going, I could tell. I
Exactly.
could
Yeah.
just sit back and you got the reins to
The
this
pet
episode.
peeve. Yeah,
All right, so we're going to have you back. We're going to talk about that exact thing.
absolutely.
I'm not going to get started, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that you got yourself started. So now I know I have a friend in you. So let's get started on the Jets.
Yep.
For the sake of this scenario, I don't think we really care whether Hoyt and Ogunjobi are back. I don't necessarily need this imaginary game tethered to the real schedule. But when we were talking in pre-production, it seemed that it was actually a little bit more fun for you if we did tether it a little bit to the real schedule. So it's week 2, right?
Sure.
And
Yep.
it's in East Rutherford.
It's no, this well, yes. Yeah, it's an away game.
So we're away. We're in that beautiful stadium, at least from the outside. Isn't it just elegant, that
Yeah.
New Jersey stadium?
It looks like a big giant metal spaceship.
We're
top.
we're coming off
Boring.
what I imagine will be a Sunday night victory, and I'm very happy that it will be one, not only because I am a big Bills fan, as some might know, but because you're going to be at the game. So I want you leaving Sunday night Orchard Park with a really good feeling that we started out 1-0 with a win over the Ravens.
Yep.
And now we are facing the Jets, who we feel like are going to be 0-1 after a loss to Pittsburgh. They got some new coaches in the room, so I hear the rumor is Aaron Glenn, former Jet great, really good, is now at the helm after a couple of years as the defensive coordinator in Detroit, and he brings with him Tanner Engstrand from Detroit, who spent a couple of years as their passing game coordinator. He's now calling the plays for the offense. So let's kick it off, kind of literally, with the Jets on offense. And the way these war games are going to go for you listener out there is we're just going to use our imagination. And we're going to walk through an opening series. We're going to pretend that the Bills force a 3 and out, which Alex thinks is likely to happen in the real world anyway. So it was a decent enough kickoff. The coverage was okay. It's not a touchback coming out to the 35, but the Jets have the ball, let's say, at the 30. There's 14 minutes and 52 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Alex, walk us through the first drive of the game.
Yes, sir. So I think we talked about this a little bit earlier too, but I think they're going to come out with heavy personnel. We talked about the framing of them playing the Steelers the week before. You've got a second-year tackle on the left, first-year tackle on the right, and they just got finished playing TJ Watt. And now they get Joey Bosa, who's presumably healthy at this point, and Greg Rousseau, which could argue that our combo now, if both healthy and at their best, is really good. So they're probably looking at this from like, okay, we were probably victimized a little bit week 1. We want to go ahead and max protect. So I think they're going to come out 12 and 13 personnel kind of packages the majority of this game. The receiving core didn't do any favors from the wide receiver core for this year. So you got Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, and Josh Reynolds. I expect it to be Lazard and Garrett Wilson the majority of the time. I think they're going to be run heavy. I could see this drive going something to the effect of, well, let's talk about defense too. I think we're going to stay in nickel. I think we're going to keep doing what we do. But we're going to have, the new players filling in spots, of course, with the same D tackles. I think it's going to be rotational with TJ Sanders and Deion Walker. If he's healthy, we'll rotate in and out. But the first drive, we're looking at just, this is going to be prime Daquan Jones. The best Daquan Jones is going to look all year is the early 4 or 5 weeks into the season. And then I think that most likely what they're going to do is when they run this heavy, they're just trying to give themselves some space. So they're going to have to run heavy into some respects. I know they just got Mason Taylor, good receiving tight end, not a great blocker, but I don't think he's going to pose any kind of unrealistic problems that we won't be able to defend him. So they're going to probably come out immediately, go to Breece Hall. We're going to be ready for it because we just got done with Derrick Henry in his first week of the year, which is the worst part of the Ravens game is we have to take on a healthy Henry. And we'll be ready easily to stop that I think we're going to force them into sort of a 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7 at that point. They'll probably pivot to some sort of short pass to stay ahead of the sticks and to get a manageable 3rd down. I think Fields is relatively good at doing just that, is, kind of if having an easy first read, dinking it or dunking it to that place, and then getting a short sticks. And then, he'll throw a couple deep balls here and there, but for the most part, he's not an intermediate thrower of the football, which is what tends to kill us. When we get hurt, it's the intermediate area of the field. We're really good at covering short and deep stuff a lot of times. Probably a lot of it's because we run a ton of, well, last year we ran more man than usual, but a ton of cover 2 and cover 4 and cover 6, stuff like that. But I see that happening. Most likely, I would predict, he's not an efficient passer, probably looking at an incompletion to Mason Taylor, and then probably taking an intermediate shot to Garrett Wilson. And I don't see that being successful either, because that's just the place where we're weakest. He's the worst. So there's a good combination of strength versus weakness on our side, where we can take advantage of it. I don't think they're going to move the ball very much in this game. For the sake of this scenario, we're going to walk through as if somehow disaster has happened, and
well, as Joe Marino says, Dalton, division games are goofy.
They are goofy sometimes. Yeah, week 1, 2 years ago. So
let me ask you this, Alex. We're going to stick with the first drive for just a little bit. 1st and 10. Who are your defensive linemen? I think I know, but I want to hear you say it.
I think the usual suspects, probably Bosa, Rousseau, Daquan, and Oliver.
I mean, that's
maybe a rotation for one of the plays if it's a 3 and out. If it's longer than that, we'll see some TJ Sanders rotated and things like that. And now if TJ Sanders ends up playing really well, I mean, I'm not saying that they want to put him at 1 tech, but I mean, I guess there's a world where he could start. I don't think they would have gotten rid of Daquan this year, I think, if they wanted to replace him, like officially.
It's been my thesis throughout the offseason that the most critical storyline heading into the season is actually Matt Milano's health. Somehow this is flying completely under the entire Bills Mafia radar. Mm-hmm. But particularly since we play with just the 2 linebackers, and when you factor in the fact that you got Bosa, an elite run defender on one edge, and Rousseau, an elite run defender on the other, and then 2 guys in the middle who, at least Ed Oliver is built for one gapping and getting upfield, and Daquan is Daquan. Milano fitting the run is going to be pretty crucial. So on 1st down, I'm going to assume they got to try to go up the middle with Breece Hall, right? Rather than test these tackles. And what's your first imaginary read on how Matt Milano looks fitting that up the gut run?
I think he's fine at this point in the year. I don't think he's going to have I mean, he's always been just kind of like a heat-seeking missile more than anything else, right? He's never been like this big stout player against the run or anything like that. So I don't think he's most likely, I don't see him having any issues at this point unless he has some kind of weird injury. I think he's still got a lot of juice. I think last year he came on strong at the end where he took a little time earlier in the year to get going. So I think he's finally kind of fully healthy, so to speak, at 31 years old, though, right? Mm-hmm. So he's not quite the same player he used to be, but
it's 31, but with like 2 years of rest.
Right? Yeah,
like
he does.
29 and 2/3.
Yeah. The issue in a lot of respects for our defense is kind of late in games is going to be shielding them. We probably have one of the smaller linebacker cores in the NFL. I don't think we have a guy registering over 230 outside of some. There's backups that do, but our starting 3 or 4, I think, unless Ulafosio ends up being a top 4 linebacker, which it could happen, he's over 230. But most of them are like 222, 223, 228. Like, they're not big players. So you saw it in the Ravens game last year in the playoffs. Like, they had all this juice to come out and stop the run because everybody's talking about how small they were. And it worked for a little while until the second half, and their 320-pound average offensive linemen were like, we're still good. And we were not. Yeah, we were out of gas, So I think he'll be fine in that respect. I think TJ Sanders provides a little more cover. I don't think people really realize how small Ed Oliver really is. You know,
He's
I know
got
he's
small
listed.
arms too.
He's got short arms. He's
Kind of a
listed
narrow shoulders.
287. He probably plays at like 275. So he's not, even though he's short, he's like 6'1" ish. He's a bowling ball out there. He's a good player. He's just a niche player. I think that TJ Sanders is more of the ideal three tech size, pushing 300 pounds, 295, 300. He could play at 305, he said, or even 310. So I view him as an eventual Oliver replacement. Um, but I think Oliver is more of a he wins, like his run stop win rate is good for his size. For in general, he's like top 20 in the league, but there's plays that are missed or that they run away from him that he isn't doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the plays where he doesn't make the tackle, where he's not like near the play. I don't see the penetration in the like he's not two gapping. You know what I mean? He's always going to be that one gap player. So I don't want to get too far off tangent, but that's kind of how I feel like TJ could fill in at certain points, and we need to shield them more. And I think with Deion Walker, part of the idea is like we don't care if he's a one tech, we just need somebody who's big, you know. And that's kind of where I think the pivot went to when it comes to that.
So it's that first drive. We're about to get them off the field. Let's say it's
Yep.
3rd and 7. I personally like the idea of basically stuffing them on first down, and then that quick pitch to the tight end that Fields is looking for goes awry when the pass is broken up by the elite coverage defender named Matt Milano, or Taron Johnson is there.
Yeah.
And it's just not accurate enough to fit into the small window that we offered to Fields. So let's say it's 3rd and 7.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of package, forget what you expect McDermott and Babbage to roll out. What does Alex Cullen want to see on the field? It's 3rd and 7. The fans are trying to get behind their team, see if they can pick up one of their few first downs of the season after a rough matchup with the Steelers. Who are we bringing out? Are we bringing out some sort of NASCAR package, or are we staying pretty base, pretty true to form with the nickel?
I think we just stay with nickel, especially in 3rd and 7. I think we run nickel. We probably play some sort of. I think this game's going to be crucial for things like bringing corner, like a nickel blitz, things of that nature, right? We're going to try to surprise them with some things, especially with two young tackles. They're probably not going to have high levels of awareness on the football field, at least initially. So I think we bring some kind of smoke at them. But on 3rd down, McDermott does like to blitz. I don't think I necessarily would do that. I would just go straight up. The problem that this poses, the only real problem I see, and I don't love him as a player, but Lazard is a bigger wide receiver. And presumably he's going to be matched up against Hairston, who's not a big corner. I could see them throwing like throwing a fade to him, or putting him in the slot and running a slot fade, or a quick hitch or something like that at the stick. So there could be a multitude of things they could do in this scenario, but most likely I think they're going to target those players. But overall, I think we stick in nickel, and especially in this scenario.
So one way or the other, there's been an errant pass. The Jets have to punt. It's a perfectly fine punt, or maybe it's a really good one and my math is off. And the Bills are now starting their second game of the season from their own 30. Let's start just on first down. Tell me who you think we're rolling out there, and who would you prefer roll out there if it's any package that differs from who Brady is putting on the field?
Yeah. I'm probably not going heavy in this game. I'd like to spread them out a little bit. Azariah Thomas and Stevens are going to be corners that we can take advantage of. One's a rookie. One, Keon Coleman, got pretty good against the Ravens last year in a game where we weren't doing that well in the passing game. He was, when we started to give him the ball against Stevens, he's just a matchup that I like is them, even though I'm not a big Keon guy. I think that Stevens is not a very aware player on the football field. I think he can stay in phase with the receiver, but I don't see him like he doesn't turn his head around a lot of times on time. Like these back shoulder fades we got him on last year, I think are going to be susceptible to it. So I think that we're going to try to do that and spread these corners thin a little bit, right? You can get Michael Carter, if we split out, let's say Kincaid in the slot against Carter, or even if it's Quincy Williams, I value Kincaid that's a mismatch. And then the flip side, whoever guards Shakir is going to also have a kind of a little bit of an issue. And then Palmer is going to have to go against Sauce, and Sauce can get beat, but that's a tough matchup for him. With the way that Palmer wins a lot of times with good route running, but also with some physicality. Like, he's a thick, strong wide receiver. I don't think that's going to work all that much against Sauce. And if they don't call holds on Sauce, which they often don't, he's going to have a hard time probably getting away from him in some respects. So we probably shy away from that. But yeah, so I'm thinking 11 personnel, maybe some mixing of 10. We're going to run some 12 because we run it more than anyone in the league outside of the Ravens, right? So we're going to run some of that. I just don't think it's like in this game, like I think against the Ravens, it probably makes sense to run a lot of 12, but in this game, I don't think I think we want to take advantage of the corners, the youth and the thinness of the group with Reed being moved on to another team.
So I want my audience member to be aware of something, that Alex is a pretty objective dude here. I don't think Alex is the type
I've been told I'm very negative.
Really?
But I'm objective. That's the difference. And they often get conflated. I am an objective person.
That speaks more to the person judging you than I think it does to you. Because
I think so.
I think when it comes to your football apparatus, it is set in neutral. I think you like to look at the screen and tell people what you see on that screen, and I don't think you get necessarily too high or too low. I've only known you for a little while, so tell me, am I off base, or does that sound like a fair assessment?
That's right, and honestly, there are times when I trust my eyes more than I do advanced analytics, advanced metrics too. I mean, like, there's metrics I see out there, and like, I just don't see that on tape. Then I start questioning, just as a numbers person, how are they measuring this? How are you measuring win rates? How are you measuring havoc? Like little things that people use and are like, yeah, like Greg Rousseau's havoc rate is amazing. And I'm going, I don't see any of that disruption. I see it sometimes, don't get me wrong. He's a good player, but I don't see this like totally like incredibly disruptive player on a level of some of these other guys who are in the same conversation. So there are times where, like, for instance, let's talk about just a quick aside. Fantasy points gets used a ton when talking about Palmer and Keon Coleman and Kincaid and their statistics, right? But the next gen has like fantasy points as Keon is a good example. Keon Coleman, like right below average in separation. But next gen has them at the bottom, and it's not close to any other player, right? So I start thinking, like, what are my eyes telling me? Okay, I trust next gen's way they measure this because that's what my eyes are saying to me. Mm-hmm. It's not saying he's some middle of the road guy to me, right? And I trust myself just from experience and watching this game for almost 40 years now, and 35 years. And I look at it and I go, okay, now I can formulate which advanced data I want to follow based on, and I know it's a little bit of like, that's more biased, right? But I'm using an objective form to like actually measure it, right? So I do kind of trust myself and what I know more than like some site that says a quarter of a foot of separation gives him some,
on a technicality, he's separated. Yeah. It's similar to the argument that you had about the statistics on Von Miller's pressure rate, which technically, according to PFF, was good. But we all watched the games. It wasn't good. So I mention your objectivity, or what I perceive to be objectivity, to elucidate for my listener the fact that you mentioned Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid right at the top, despite you being fairly critical, let's say, of the two of them. Yeah. And though you be objective, you teeter, I want to say, once in a while on being a Keon Dalton hater. The word does not really apply to you because it's too aggressive.
It is a little aggressive. I mean, here's the thing, like,
you're a Keon and Dalton skeptic.
So I watched Cover One
Yeah.
yesterday.
They did the Dalton Kincaid. Yep, we
The
watched
two and a
it.
half
Yep.
hours of Dalton Kincaid. I'm like, if it takes you 2.5 hours to explain this, then I feel like we have a problem.
So do you think that was mental gymnastics they were doing to try and explain why he's going to rebound?
I mean, it's pretty objective. I don't think they're subjective. I think there's subjective elements to what cover one does, but I think it's also like each play is so individualized. So, for instance, the play against the Colts, where he gets through the jam or whatever. I mean, no one was really guarding him at the end of the day, right? At the end, but he kind of split through. He heads up field and kind of, I guess it was a slot fade kind of look
Right.
route. So he gets up the field, but they're like, "Well, look, Allen missed him. Like this is a lot of the problem." And I'm going, well, "Yeah, that's part of it, but we don't see the whole element here. Like Allen's timing could be off because he held up a little bit right after he was jammed. He expected Kincaid to be a little further downfield, right? He knows Kincaid's speed better than we do in some respects, and I see that it was a bad throw. He should have hit the pass. Don't get me wrong, because I want to be objective on Allen too, but at the same time, there's a little miscommunication there. Like, what was he expecting? I feel like Kincaid jumped at the end instead of keep continuing to run, and then like I'm like, okay, so that's not all on Allen, right? We can't just blame that on him. And I've seen that happen in the past with Kincaid, where like there's this like getting off your feet versus continuing to run. And a lot of Allen's passes to Kincaid are kind of over the shoulder when it's down the field sometimes. And a lot of times he is stretching out and kind of falling down. And there's no way that Allen's hitting other guys perfectly in stride in those scenarios and not him with that kind of irregularity. He seems to be the outlier, I guess I should say, in the ratio.
He is, and to tether it really just to numbers, which again, you can take a single number and paint most any picture around it that you like.
Yep.
That said, if you isolate Allen's efficiency to his tight ends last year, 8 out of 10 times throwing to Knox, there was a completion.
Yep.
It was closer to 6.7 times out of 10.
Yeah, it was like 6 something. Yeah, exactly.
He's got that timing and that synergy down with Knox that he does not have with Kincaid.
And then there's sometimes he's perfect. Like that, he threw it was a kind of an out and up kind of deal against, I think it was the Colts or something. No, it was the Titans. It was a great route by Kincaid. And I see those routes. I'm like, oh my God, like that makes me have, like it's selling me kind of on back in like the boat, right? I want him to be good. I want Coleman to be good. But, at the same time, I still see this kind of like, almost like when it's down the field and it's over the shoulder, Kincaid doesn't get more yak after that versus when he's getting kind of in the middle. And it may be just usage. I think that's the biggest problem for me is how they use him. Like they said that like he was second in like routes run where he was targeted or something last year amongst tight ends. But like if you take away the screen plays, he's like 14th. I can't remember what the number was.
Exactly right. Yes, he was
13th or something.
Yeah, I think it was something like on yards per route run among qualifying tight ends. He was between McBride and Bowers, with Bowers at 3, McBride at 1. But then when you took out all of the screens, he was 13th, which is something that I found, and I'll throw this number at you too, is. I said I'm going to show you a number. If you want to see the actual number, you're going to have to go on Twitter to find it because I just tried to search my own Twitter account and couldn't find it. Kincaid's usage was peculiar last year. It was very feast or famine. And the numbers, even in a raw sense, bear it out. Mm-hmm. He, I believe, was targeted on 13 screen passes and caught all of them.
Yeah.
And if you take those away, that already poor completion percentage to Kincaid goes way, way, way down.
Exactly.
And his average depth of target overall was very long.
Yeah.
Ergo, we're either throwing to him at or behind the line of scrimmage or really deep. And this guy, any tight end really, should be thrown to in the intermediate.
Why are we doing that? That's the question. Because he did it in year 1 too. He disappeared for long stretches. Remember this. I remember games, was it the Bucs game 2 years ago? He came out in gangbusters. He had like 3 catches for like 40 yards, a touchdown or something like that. And then all of a sudden, like, it was the fourth quarter. I'm like, where the hell's Kincaid at? It felt like I was waiting for somebody to come over, that we were going to go out to go to the bar or something, I was like, damn, where the hell did Derek go? Like, that's what it felt like. And it's like, oh, there he is. He caught a 3-yard pass and he's back on the radar. This happens a lot to him. And I don't know if it's the physicality of the game, how they're using him. Like they put him on the boundary a lot more than I would like. I know some of the cover one guys liked him on the boundary, kind of as a quasi X at times. I don't want him out there ever. Like I know he can do some things. That's fine. I think he takes away a lot of what we can do. Like if he's playing on the boundary, like we're limited to like, I don't know, slant, go, I don't know. Like he's not
I
going to
could
do
see
an
it
out. He's not
being
doing
useful
posts.
in the deep red zone.
Yeah, in the deep red zone.
You know it's coming.
Sure.
It's going to be a jump ball. See
Sure.
if you can defend it.
Yeah, and we have slot guys. We have a lot of slot guys, so maybe that's the reason they do it. I'm not completely opposed to them playing out there at times, but I mean, when we put him out there that much, there's a reason he's not getting. The best thing about Kincaid when I watched his tape wasn't the downfield stuff or his hands or any of the stuff. It was his feel for zone in the middle of the field. The Travis Kelce stuff was the stuff I was really excited about. I was like, okay, we can do something with maybe he can be like a Kelce type of player. And if he is that, then we're in business because we need that easy button throw. He could be the new Beasley, right? Beasley was our Kelce for a while, and then we didn't have one, and then things kind of went awry. Now Shakir's become that, but I thought Kincaid really could do that kind of thing for us, and they don't really use him. I see it happen like once every 2 games, and I'm like, oh, there it is, and I feel like breath of fresh air, and then I expect it to keep happening, and they just don't do it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So intersectionality is a term that has got rather corroded with political
Politics.
infiltration over the past couple of years. But it's a really important word, I think, when talking about football, because you talk about the intersectionality of statistics, different types of statistics, scenarios, watching the game. And
How
now
they
let's talk
measure
a
it.
little bit
There's a
about
bunch of different areas.
exactly coaching, schematic manipulation. This is part of the conversation as well, and we're going to figure out how the Bills score a touchdown on this opening drive by talking about this a little bit, because how a player gets used in the route scheme will also enable them to either separate or not separate. You have beat the drum time and time again about the lack of separation from the receivers last year. It ain't just the receivers. They're not necessarily getting schemed open. For example, our boy Keon, after the injury, basically just ran 9 patterns. He just ran upfield. How is he ever going to create separation? When he runs horizontally across a field, which is the very sort of dynamic athleticism that came to bear during the combine that attracted Bean to him in the first place, the gauntlet drill, he's very, very good. When Kincaid is 10 to 19 yards from the line of scrimmage, up the seam, he's very, very good. So let's just make up a couple of plays, a play or two, that turn a drive, a couple of plays that turn a drive that might stall out frustratingly just beyond the 50 into a drive that now we're at the Jets 45 and we're getting in the end zone. What a couple of things you want to see. We've picked up 2 first downs. We're in Jets territory. Let's not stall out. Let's put our feet on their throats from the jump. What do you want to see?
Okay. So if we're already kind of in that territory, like right across the 50-yard line, this is something I've noticed with how that we call plays in that area of the field. We immediately start to get to this, like, if you notice, like in the 20 or the 30, we'll start getting some intermediate shots to like the sidelines and things like that. We'll see a lot of those, lots of Dawson Knox stuff in that area of the field. And then once we pass the 50, we kind of get into Shakir territory, running back territory. We start doing these things. I think other teams are going to see these kind of these nuances or these tendencies, so to speak. I think there's going to be a pivot. Brady's really good, if anything else, at putting people on their heels a little bit with, like, he's the one who ran the ship last year to made it go with all the points, like the way he called plays. So I think there's going to be a pivot this year, and there's going to be a focus on Kincaid. This is year 3. So I think that this is going to start becoming more of a Kincaid area of like, let's get the 10 yards. Let's keep moving. Let's get into the red zone kind of thing. So it's convenient. We just kind of got on a tangent about Kincaid, but I think that that's where we go. If it's 1st and 10, I think you run something of the, kind of put Kincaid just off the hip, of the right, maybe in the Y position, and then just send him out there for a quick, like a dig, or just to find a soft spot in the zone and turn around and boom, you catch it, right? Turn up field, because he's really good at creating yards after the catch in those scenarios too. If you notice, like, he's not great at catching it, and I don't think he's overly fast, but I think he's fast enough. And then I think he gets down the field and he doesn't continue the yak. But when he's in the area where he's catching it in stride in the middle of the field, he often turns up field just as good as anyone in the league, where he turns up. I mean, when he catches it and goes, like, it's so clean, So I could see us taking advantage of that, getting him upfield, maybe 15, 16, 17, 18 yards, somewhere in that ballpark, kind of get ourselves in, like, in the not quite the red zone yet, like in the 20s, creating another 1st and 10. And then I think this may sound a little crazy, but I think that we're going to be able to take advantage of these guys on the perimeter. I really do. I could see, like, us immediately go to Keon Coleman. It sounds crazy. This is why I'm objective, bro.
I love it.
I'm going fade, probably a fade to Keon in the red zone or right outside the red zone to see if he can make something happen at the boundary, and to see if he can win a jump ball in Stevens or taking it in. And then if it doesn't score, we're looking at, we're probably going to, I don't think we're going to sneak as much this year. I think it's going to pivot. I think we go to Ray Davis as a kind of a punch-in touchdown.
Love it.
Here's the thing, if it doesn't go well, right? Mm-hmm. This is where I think it changes things, where let's say we aren't getting anything down. Because let's say their safeties are better than advertised, and say Stevens, or let's say Azariah Thomas is great, right? And like, oh wow, he's going to win the job and he's amazing. And our receivers are totally locked down. I think if we don't get chunk plays against this team, we can get into a little bit of a dogfight. So we get into a situation where we do a quick screen, we stay in the old stuff, quick screen to Shakir or Ty Johnson, right? And let's say it gets stopped for 2 or 3 yards. We decide to run it with Cook. And then, we're in a 3rd and 3 situation, which oddly enough is kind of a weird spot for our team. Because when teams get to pinch in a little bit, we're not good at going deep. And 3rd and 3 is not close enough to do like a sneak most of the time. So, we saw that in the Chiefs game where we struggled a little bit in those situations. We get a lot of those. I think we'll win, but I think it might be a little bit scary and feel a lot like the 2023 game.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to steal the very last play of this drive from you.
Yeah.
Because as we're just playing with our imaginations here, my imagination started knocking on the door. You talked a lot about the easy button throws to Kincaid, which I'm envisioning are a lot over the middle. Those are quick and easy. So
that's what I would do.
Right?
I don't know if he's going to do it. He might continue to do the same.
Well, we get to play the game today. This is our game today.
Exactly.
They don't get to tell us what to do.
I think this would work.
So I think we're in a situation where we've got a 1st and 10 from the 12-yard line. We've been hitting them easy button stuff over the middle to Shakir and Kincaid. I like the idea of Alex and Nick working together to get Keon Coleman the ball where he should get it. I think it's on some sort of a mesh crossing pattern. And so now all eyes are attuned to Kincaid, Shakir, Coleman, and we use that strange formation. I don't know the name of it. Maybe you do. When we put Cook just a little bit in motion, so he's offset.
Yeah.
Right, like longitudinally, he's now kind of behind the Spencer instead of like right next to Josh.
Yeah.
I love that. And just spread out the linebackers a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember what it's called. I just call it an offset.
Yeah.
But it's called something else. I'll think of it. Let me think of it, and I'll come back to it once it pops
We're going
in my
to
head.
think of it. I'll put it in the show notes. And if you follow me on Twitter, where I'm at the Bills Pod, hell of a handle, isn't it? I still can't believe I got that.
I can't believe you got that handle. Fantastic.
Let's offset Cook from the 12-yard line. Josh just uses his eyes to pull the backers and the nickel into the middle of the field just a little bit. There's our soon-to-be $15.5 million a year running back catching it out of the flat for his first touchdown of the season, and we go up 7-0. So what we're going to do now is I just want to skip forward, hit fast forward in the game. I'm going to put in a musical interlude a little bit later. You and I are in a rhythm here, and this timing-wise works out well with the pacing of the episode. I
Yep.
want to jump into a quick 2-minute drill. Somehow, as Joe Marino says, division games are goofy. We find ourselves down 4. Nobody really knows how this happened, but somehow
Hmm.
we're just down 24-20. Actual 2-minute drill. 2 minutes to go in the game. We got all our timeouts. Let's say there's 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So we've basically got 4 timeouts. We're starting from the 34-yard line. Lucky number Thurman Thomas.
Hmm.
What do we do? How do we score 6?
It's 2 minutes, not 4.
We got 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So we get the 2-minute warning and we got all our timeouts.
All the timeouts.
All the timeouts. McDermott,
So,
baby. Didn't throw one challenge flag.
yeah, good for him. Yeah, right. I think in those cases we have effectively 4 timeouts and 66 yards to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Good
think
math.
I think we come out running, you know. I think there's no reason to get out of it, especially before the 2-minute warning. See what you can get. See, even keep them off balance, right? So I'd run out of a weaker personnel. I wouldn't put 12 on the field initially. I'd run more of like a 10 or 11 and give it to Cook and see if he can do something on the first play, and maybe throws them off balance a little bit, thinking that him on the field in a 2-minute drill is not very common. And then giving them the ball. And just seeing where you can go with it at that point. If they're assuming the pass due to the timing, you might be able to get 14, 15, 16, maybe 20 yards, maybe he gets touchdown, who knows? So there's a lot of different scenarios there that you could play with, but I think that's the way I would start, generally speaking.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would almost spam the run. And, in preparation for this conversation and war games in general, since every war game is going to include a 2-minute drill where Josh has got to go win us the game, I looked back at some of the older guard who used to be really good at running the 2-minute drill, the Elways and the Montanas of the world, and as good as they were at running those 2-minute drills. So Elway's classic was a 98-yarder, right?
Yeah.
They still ran the ball.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'd like to fact check myself or have somebody fact check me on this. It does seem like when we are put in 2-minute scenarios, we assume first down throw, second down throw, third down throw. Does that feel right to you, or do you think I'm off base?
I think we have to. That's the problem. This
We,
is the receiver talk, And
Yeah.
this is part of the. Now, maybe Elijah Moore ends up being the player that he was supposed to be coming out of college, and he ends up being a player that can play the Z, be a boundary slash and slide, like he can play all over the place and be a speed threat down the field. And I mean, I hope that happens. I think I like him. I liked him coming out. Honestly, I think he has been hampered a lot by his previous regime. But like, just besides that, I mean, if we look at last year, when teams know we have to pass the ball, we struggle a little bit. So 2-minute drill is the kind of the worst case scenario. For what we were good at last year. We scored 30 points a game, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, the offense is no problem with it." But you've got scenarios where the 30 points a game doesn't matter anymore because we're a good offense when we have the threat of some sort of misdirection or the threat of being two-dimensional. When we don't have that threat, we're throwing screen passes to Amari Cooper at the end of the game, and and that wasn't even a 2-minute drill. And Shakir, and we're out of structure. We don't have a lot of passing game out of structure in a lot of respects. I don't remember who said that the other day, but I totally agree with that. Like, that's part of the problem. With it's not just a statistical like volume thing with the offense. A lot of it is like when you have this scenario, can you win when they know what's coming, and can you win in this way? And we couldn't win in a certain type of way last year enough times without the threat of something else there.
Would you agree with me if I were to say qualitatively, the way it feels, the way it looks, the way it seems, that we just, whether we're on offense or on defense towards the end of games, let's just say in big games, because the little games we win by 30, so the scenario almost never comes up.
Yeah.
We do. They talk about tightness. I hate the word getting tight, but McDermott does, and I love McDermott. I'm a drum beating,
Yeah, I like
top
him
of the
too.
mountain screaming
Yeah.
McDermott apologist and defender. but we do seem to stop dictating. Now, for
Hmm.
my money, if it's towards the end of the game and the defense is getting tired,
Hmm.
I want Kincaid out there in some sort of a decoy-like fashion. I mean, we can throw to him, but I
Yeah,
want them
sure.
to have to roll out particular personnel to defend
Make them
the
cover
fact
them.
that, yeah, make them cover Kincaid, get Dalton out there, and you know what? I think this rookie Hawes is a really special type of player in these types of scenarios. When you're going
Hmm.
against a tired defense, where's the matchup issue going to be? It's going to be all over the field.
Hmm.
If you got three potential pass catchers,
Sure.
and two of them are very, very good blockers, and this guy Hawes seems to potentially be kind of an animal in the blocking game,
Hmm.
that to me would be dictating to a defense. Come
Yeah.
out and you try to figure out what in the world you ought to do.
Yeah.
Then we get Cook running downhill, and now you're talking about 20-yard gains on first down just
Sure.
before the 2-minute warning. I would love
I
to
think
see this
you,
sort of a thing.
yeah, I think you have to do that before the 2-minute warning, though, right?
Mm.
And if it doesn't work, then you're really up against see, because we can dictate, right, to an extent as long as the time allows it, right? So if we don't have the time to do it to dictate the terms, because the way we run our offense, the less time we have, I mean, with any team, the less chance you have to dictate it. I think a lot of times with the tightness, it's specific, it's team specific, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's I see tightness in the playoffs with Allen against Mahomes in the early stage. We saw it this year.
mm-hmm.
We saw it in the 13 seconds game. Kind of came out, we scored, and then we hit a lull. We were down like 21 to 24-13, and kind of got into a rhythm. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm the best player in the world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with a little bit with the Bengals. I know we're a better team than them, but they scare me a little bit, not because of Burrow or, I mean, I just think we have a really hard time matching up against uber athletic players at the weapons positions. If we have multiple that we have to deal with, McDermott doesn't, not many teams do, right? McDermott doesn't really know what to do with that. When you have Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, when you have Chase and Higgins, if you have um, AJ and Devontae Smith, like it's the and that
Mm-hmm.
kills us. That's why I was hoping they wouldn't sign Higgins. I think we'd see a different team.
I
So
agree.
maybe a better team, but because they could sign the other guy,
Well, they,
Hendrickson.
yeah, exactly. A defensive
Yeah,
player.
a difference player. Yeah. So that's gonna be it. But the question is, can you outscore a team like that? Like, can we literally go against them and outshoot them? Because they're gonna score on us. Can we just continue to score on them? I don't know. Not I don't know, but I think we can, but I don't know with this group of weapons if it's quite there. We have a lot of pretty good, you know. But sorry, that kind of went on a tangent there.
Good.
But what I would say is Hawes, I think, is good in that situation. Dawson Knox is such a good blocker too. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're gonna have a hard time seeing Halls in the field because and it's gonna be a Quentin Moore situation. You're gonna catch a couple touchdowns. He's gonna catch like 10 balls the whole year. But he's gonna be in certain packages and get more playing time than Quentin. But you're gonna see him there because it's gonna tag a run. They're gonna know it's a run probably, you know. And then occasionally you might get them like just little kick out, like just little push passes and things like that he sends to Quentin Morris sometimes where like the play's breaking down and he's just like,
One a
but
year. Good for
yeah,
one
exactly.
spectacular catch against the Giants every year.
Exactly. And then the one last year against Dolphins, I
The
think.
Dolphins. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, with that said, yes, I think we can throw in some mismatches. I think the good news with our unit is now if Moore's on the team, Keon year 2, Palmer, I think, is an upgrade on where Amari is at this point in his career. Did I say Shakir?
Shakir, you're
and then
missing one S.
Curtis.
There's our boy
So,
Curtis.
and then you have Knox and Kincaid. This is a very good. Now we're in the territory of like, okay, all these guys can do something. Versus last year was kind of, there were times where it was like, this play's not going to work, So hopefully that changes the dynamics a little bit. And I do think we can run 12 on the 2-minute drill, 12 personnel. It has to be the right setup, right receivers on the field, things like that. But I feel like it might clue them in a little bit on too much on what we're doing based on the 2 receivers we trot out there, right? If we trot out Elijah Moore and Curtis Sam or Shakir, that we're probably not running the ball, So But we have to keep them on their heels with this stuff. And until proven otherwise, till Kincaid turns into who we think he is, right? Till Keon turns into a number one, number two receiver, whatever you want to call him. We're going to have to continue to win like that.
I'm going to put you on the hot seat. You're going to think on your toes. We're
Yep.
going to get serious insight into your football imagination.
Mhm.
As we got one final segment. It's a short segment, but it's the most important segment we've got.
All right.
8 seconds to go in the game.
Mhm.
Out of timeouts.
Okay.
Down 24-20.
Okay.
Got the ball on the 8-yard line.
Okay.
Got to score now, or that's that.
Mhm.
What's the play?
What down is it?
It doesn't matter because we're going to assume, let's say there's 4 seconds to go.
Okay, that's better.
Okay.
Because the eight's like,
Yeah, the 8's, yes, right.
I'm going to do something, a quick
There was
slant.
something magical, something celestial coming to me about the number 8, but I'm going to do away with the number 8,
Yeah.
but I'll stick with the factorial of 4.
Mhm.
4 seconds to go from the 8-yard line, down by 4. Who's on the field? Who's getting the ball? What's making you jump out of the seat from the couch and throwing the popcorn in the air?
I'm going to run very similar to what we did last year on the Keon Coleman touchdown, but we're going to throw it in a different place on the field.
Wait, which Keon Coleman touchdown? Are you talking about the one against Seattle?
No, the one where he beat Reed like 3 times on the same play, and then he ended up being in the back of the end zone, and Allen just kind of threw it up.
Yes.
That is the play I want in that area of the field. I want him now. Keon's got to catch it. If it's a quick play, I want the slant to Keon over the middle because that's one of the areas I'm very impressed with him at. Like I think he can do that a lot. Like
Basketball.
and win. Yeah, he beat Ramsey. He drops it. He gets picked by Ramsey. Should have been a touchdown. He beats guys right there in the middle of the field, and he's physical and he's pretty strong. I don't know if he really needs to add the muscle he's talking about in the offseason. But with that said, I like that route. Like he beats Reed on the. It was actually I think it was a drag, and he beats him, and then he didn't get the ball. So what did he do? He played the scramble drill rule. He turned back and started following his quarterback. I was like, well, that's amazing. He beat Reed again. Reed was running on skates. And then Allen started fading in the pocket, and then he kind of cut it back to the other direction, and Allen just gave him a prayer. I don't want that in the last 8 seconds. So just to be clear, in this scenario, I want Keon in the slot because of where we are on the field and because of what he does well. I actually might want
I think I know what you're about to say.
yeah, I kind of almost want Ty Johnson on the field for sure.
Yeah.
Running a kind of like a wheel. And
He
then
might have to chip somebody on his way.
backside, a chip backside kind of wheel kind of deal. See if he's there, if the slant's not open. And then I want Palmer on the field for sure on the other side. Until I know more about how Elijah Moore fits, I don't want him on the field, although I do think he's a player I think should get carve out some more PT. And then I think we should there should be a fake screen to Shakir. I was thinking about this the other day. That the touchdown to Ty Johnson against who was it?
In the Denver game? The crazy catch in the back of the end zone?
Yeah, Allen cuts to the right and then doesn't throw it and then throws it to Ty, and Ty runs up for no. I'm talking about the one where he runs up the sideline on a screenplay. It was Lions, I think.
Yes, the Lions
Or
game.
Rams.
That was a beautiful pass. That was early in the Lions game. He dropped it right in the breadbasket. Yep.
Yeah, it was something like that. So I want us to run some sort of diversion there because you're at the 8-yard line. The implication is Shakir could get the ball in a screenplay. I want that on the field. I want all the things on the field that are like deadly. Like I want Ty Johnson. I want Shakir kind of to pose as a screen player. After he's done with the fake, I want him running kind of a drag across the field. I want Keon in the slot doing a slant, and then I want Palmer on the outside. And I actually don't. I think maybe Knox being on the field is a good thing in this case too, where he can kind of chip and go, see what he can get something over the middle there. And then I want Allen rolling right, but I don't want him throwing back across his body. So I want it to kind of look. There's a Denver 2-point conversion where Allen is kind of in the pocket, and then you have Keon doing the slant, but he doesn't throw it. and then Keon kind of cuts and starts going back towards the back corner of the end zone. That's the route I really want if the slant's not there in the quick money. So I know that's a lot, but
I love it.
that's kind of the where I want the pieces to be and what I want their threat to be. How they line up, the motions, things like that. That's all let to be said. I think that's probably more than most people want to hear. But what I would say is that's kind of the idea I want to see in this scenario. Because one thing I do know about the thing, I'm getting hyped about Keon now because it's getting into the off season.
Keep going. Take a sip of coffee.
He's just gonna burn me, dude. So I like the slant and then his ability to be good at the scramble drill, especially towards the end of the year. I just didn't think they used it enough. And then I don't want this long drawn out play. I want something quick. And if not, I want it to try to get it under 8 seconds. If I can get an incompletion under 8 seconds, it's a victory or a small victory of like, okay, that's not over yet. So I'd like the slant if it's there. The problem is we only have timeouts left. So it might be a little dangerous to get it there. So I almost want to kind of almost do like a fake there and not actually have any intention of throwing it, The other option is to throw it up and see if he comes down. I hate fade routes. I think they're low percentage passes, but in this scenario, you could have it kind of like a fade to the right side, but not be the primary read, right? Kind of slow play it, right? Pace your route, so to speak, as they call it, right? If you're not the first option, sometimes they don't run full speed initially. Maybe get them on a slower release, see where it goes. If the slant or there's not a guy, there's the screen or whatever else isn't open, and then be like, okay, here's the backup, and just throw it up and see what happens. So
Keon had a video last offseason after he was drafted by the Bills where he was talking about his approach to just that, the timing of the mesh.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw this at you and just kind of look for a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a shrug. The idea of a Coleman touchdown to win the game is exactly what I want. To me, nothing would make me more excited. You don't want Kincaid split out in this scenario. I'm going to split them out, and I'm going to stack Coleman and Kincaid right next to each other.
Okay.
You
want a bunch set then?
But not in tight. I'm gonna have to look this up. We did it a couple of times, probably with Keon and Amari. I don't know if we ever put them on the same side of the field, but there is a formation that I don't think I'm inventing, where we put two of our bigger bodied receivers split out right next to each other. I think if you do that with Kincaid and Coleman, I just don't know how the hell the defense is supposed to defend it, what they're supposed to think is going to happen. And I think that kind of comes full-ish circle to what we're talking about with the multiplicity of this offense and the potential it has to continually keep defenses on their heels.
So my only question with that would be the redundancy of it. If you have two guys who have similar abilities to win on the boundary, does it become you're kind of walking, like not redundancy, you're almost like running over top of each other in some respects, unless you have one of them do a route that they aren't typically used on as much. And how close are we are we hugging the line? Are we in a bunch? Are we in a 3-by-1, or, was it going to look like the Curtis Samuel touchdown against Denver, like where he kind of squeaks out kind of thing? Like, what's it look like? I mean, I can envision it.
It looks weird is what it looks
does.
Like.
Yeah. It would look weird with two big guys like that back to it. Almost, Keon's almost like a tight end, in today's world. So,
and Kincaid's almost like a receiver.
He is. They're kind of like, you can mix them both. We might have a better player. So yeah, I don't know. Like, my other thing is my thought is anyway, is like, okay, he's our big investment in the receiver room. Okay. He has to pan out. If he doesn't, we have bigger problems. Or he at least needs to take a step. And if he can't do the one thing we brought him here to do, right, which is be a 50-50 guy in the red zone.
Body somebody, go up and get it, right?
What good are you here? Because 50-50 is already a lower percentage thrower than the average in the league, which is about 65% now. So you're throwing that, that's already out the window. Are you good at 50-50 balls? That's the other question with Keon, because he wasn't necessarily perfect at that in college, and he was mixed results last year. Had some good highlights, but also had some okay, you should have come down with that. So So yeah, like if he's not doing that and he's not a big slot, what do you say you do here? So he kind of has to be that guy. He has to, my dream is him to become Mac Hollins in some respects. A better version of that, of course. But him to be a guy who can step in and do the dirty stuff. Doesn't need to be a high level target guy because I don't think that's in his future. I just don't think he's a 150 target, maybe not even a 100 target guy in his future. I don't think he gets open enough to be like that. Versus like Shakir can do that because he can get open quick. Guys like that can create enough separation to get volume targets.
You
So
see, in Russian literature, Alex, very often towards the end of a novel, you get
mhm.
this anticlimax, and it all ends in a very depressing way for the Russian. We, my friend, are Americans. We were on a trajectory for Keon Coleman to go up and make a game-winning grab to beat the
and
Jets,
then I pooped on it.
you rained on our parade.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, I
chocolate
don't.
rain indeed, as
Yeah,
you say.
I have faith in him to do it. We've seen him do it. We saw him do it against Seattle. I think he could have had both of those touchdowns if
Right,
Allen just
right.
threw it better the first time.
Hmm.
We've seen him do 50-50s in the red zone quite a bit. And I think they use him in the red zone a lot when it's 2-point conversions. Have you noticed that?
Hmm.
Sometimes they'll get 2-point conversions. I'm like, that could have been the touchdown,
Right.
like,
Hmm.
and they don't run it. And it seems so easy when he does do it. So I think there's something to be had there where he could maybe be a legitimate TD getter. If he's not a target getter, maybe he's a TD getter. Like, you know, Gabe should have probably been a TD getter, not quite a
He just
target
wasn't
getter.
precise enough.
He was not. He can't run route. Like I like Keon better than I do him. So he can do more things. So yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, if he can't do that, then he shouldn't probably be on the field very much. But if we do it and we have 8 seconds and it's third down, right?
Mhm.
If it's third, you could run two of them. You could run a fade. If it doesn't work, then you do something else, or
Well,
you
you're
throw
making
it
me
twice.
very nervous. You're making me very. You got
Yeah,
me all pumped up, and now you're making me very
there's
nervous.
some nervousness you need to have. I like Keon as a player. I wasn't super high on him out of high college, but I think he was okay, and I thought there was some potential there. Based on what I've seen, I do think that there's there's some bust potential, but there's also some potential here to be a very good player that has a very specific niche in our market.
Mhm. See, so much of this also just comes down to the greater confidence in the team, not
Yeah.
necessarily in Keon himself, but
Yeah.
if we think back, we transport ourselves back to the days when Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and John Brown were on this team. Yeah,
Yeah.
Diggs, Beasley, Brown were an extremely formidable trio, but it was the play calling that set it all in motion and made
It
us
was,
very, very
yeah.
confident that with a few seconds to go in a game, one play, got to have it. We're getting it.
Also, I don't think it's maybe not an Allen thing as much as it is a league thing, but separation's king, right? And it's just the way the league is played now. Defensive players can't just haul up and hit you. They can't touch you really until you get downfield. If you can separate, you win. And a lot of the times, it's like a lot of the time, I think I look at us and I go, okay, when they were trying to help Allen out, what did they do? Where was he most successful before? He was successful with Diggs, Brown, Prime Beasley, all separators.
Mhm.
Sanders, separator.
Mhm.
Where did he have the lowest percentage of plays that were boom or bust? Gabe Davis, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
How often did he throw to tight ends? Even in Knox's best year, he got like 600 yards.
Mhm.
Allen just likes. There's two parts. The league is built for smaller wide receivers to be good now. When I mean smaller, I mean 5'9" to 6'2", not 6'4", 6'5" anymore. And unless you're great, unless you're like Mike Evans, or it's really built for those players. Versus in the past in the '90s where we started watching football, it was built on like you could big boy guys out there a little bit, like you could, the defenders weren't away from you as much because they could touch you and you could kind of grab you almost all the way down the field. So just wasn't as much separation to be had. So there's a part of this I think that is the league trend, but also I don't like when they got Allen a tight end. I was kind of shocked. It's like this is the idea.
Mhm.
He never showed really to like tight ends. He didn't like throwing to Kelvin Benjamin either. Didn't like target share wise, didn't like, I mean, Gabe got yards and stuff, but like targets were not through the roof for a wide receiver too. So I feel like they got players that typically haven't been very successful with Allen. We're like, here's your new guys, you know? And I wonder if that was, we'll either see it work or we'll see it be a struggle, you know?
As I said, lady and gentlemen, Alex likes to approach football from a neutral perspective. We're not going to get too high. We're not going to get too low. We're going to be skeptical. We're going to look at the tape, combine it with the numbers, and we're going to come out with an answer that makes you feel like you got to see what happens.
You
gotta love our chances.
You gotta want to be like. Here's the thing, too. In order to be me, you have to want to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like I want to be wrong about these guys sometimes. Like I'm like, okay, I know I sound pessimistic, but really I'm just in the middle. I'll tell you what he does good, tell you what he does bad. But if he doesn't succeed, I'm gonna tell you I was right. But if he does succeed, I'm like, thank goodness I was wrong. You know? And I think that's the best way to look at it. There, you're not disappointed at the end of the day.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah.
I think that is a terrific philosophy. Alex, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.